Final topic for discussion. The former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu on Thursday appeared before Uxbridge Magistrates Court in London, facing charges under Britain's Modern Slavery Act. Ekweremadu's case, reports revealed, was fast-tracked. He was in good shape, wore a grey tracksuit, and spoke twice during his appearance to confirm his name and date of birth. His wife, Beatrice, who in her defense asked the court to allow her to appear by his side because she has not seen him since the last hearing last Thursday, was not granted such a request. The prosecutor claims that David Ukpo, who alleged that he was coerced to donate his kidney to the senator's daughter, is 15 years. According to court, David was allegedly picked up off the street in Lagos by a criminal gang some months ago with the intention of organ harvesting. Ekweremadu was remanded in custody as the court argued that he is an influential person, a flight risk, and the case involves a child and modern slavery. The case has been adjourned to July 7 at Westminster Magistrate Court to enable the UK Attorney General Swala Braverman to determine whether the case will be tried in the country or Nigeria. A large delegation from the Nigeria High Commission was also present in the public gallery alongside the senators' two adult children. Let's start with you, Babade. What do you think of this issue? I mean, the issue has caused criticism and sympathy at the same time. What side of the divide are you?
Yeah, so I'm on the divide of proper investigation, and because so there are two stories to it. So there is the most important thing is to see to the two facts there. One is this: how old is he actually, and was it coerced or was it voluntary? These are two things that will determine what side one would be on. And then so his passport, and based on what we see on social media, his passport and his NI registration shows that he's 21, but by his own oral testimony, he said he is 15. Already told the police that he is 15. And so that is one thing that one has to do. There are tests that can be carried out to determine what his actual age is. They have to determine if he has that consent to be able to donate an organ and for another person. So that is the first one. Until we have with the conflicting evidence, what he said, and the challenge is that, I've said earlier, is that trust is not there. So many people, even though it's a passport, there is a NIN details. Many people are saying those documents can't be fraudulently obtained to increase one's age. And so because that trust is not there in the system, people are not believing those evidence in any other country would have been prima facie evidence to clearing. But because we know that in Nigeria, things like that can be gotten through different means, people are saying despite those two evidences, that is not enough to clear him. And that is one. So probably there could be tests to determine, probably via his bone or his blood, to determine how old is he actually, be able to know whether or not he has that right to make that decision. The second one was not whether or not it was obtained by whether it was with voluntary consent or if he was coerced to giving his consent. The consequences of the case and evidence we gotten from his family members, friends, and himself, and on the side of the deputy senate, former deputy senate president, to determine if there was that force or it was voluntary. Because there are times because there are the allegations there and there, and until we have enough evidence, we'll just be speaking based on passion or emotion than on the facts available on ground for us to make an informed position and decision. So because it's still sketchy, some are saying that probably he uses it as a scheme to get abroad and then turn his back on the Senate president. Some are saying, oh, it was coerced and was taken there. Until we have enough facts, it's difficult to say this or that is actually what happened.
Okay, now one thing that I noticed with all the question here, the person in question, the David Ukwu, don't seem to be any sort of family member or related to them, and we know some of the things involved in organ, donation. They have to be blood compatibility. They have to run a whole lot of tests. So I'm finding hard to believe that they just took the guy to the UK like that. They must have done all these tests to be sure that this donor is compatible to the senator's daughter?
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, Ekwerimadu's matter is a case that must be followed with great introspection and circumspection. If you look at the charges being leveled against Ekweremadu and his wife, the charges are well crafted in a way that the evidence available to the prosecution is enough. I said it with all sense of humility. It's enough to convict Ekweremadu if care is not taken. I've listened to Ekwerimadu's position. His own position is merely that the young man is 21 years and at against 15 years. But that is not the question. It is a feeble argument in my view. If you look at the jurisprudential basis of every piece of legislation across the world, there is an underlying purpose for which every legislation is made. Now, if you also consider the organ donation or transportation, legislation across the world, it made it clear there's key words: exploitation. The essence is that it has a moral undertone, it has a sociological undertone. You don't procure someone for purpose of donating the person's organ. Even if the young man, David, agreed to that, at what point was this agreement reached? Now, if you consider the charge said there's two cardinal ingredients we have to look at. One is procurement. Did Ekweremadu procure this young man, procure his travel documents to UK? And the answer is obvious. The second point, which also has several facts, is whether the purpose of that procurement was for exploitation. Now, what is the exploitation? At what point did Ekweremadu, at what point did he meet David? Was David a family member? Was he related to Ekweremadu in any way? Or he merely picked him from somewhere in Lagos and procured his document for him to travel for purposes of transplanting his organ, whether money was paid or not? And at the point they discovered that the organ will not match or does not match with the person it ought to be donated to,
next?
They left him and tried to travel to another country to source for this organ. So we must be very careful. If all Ekweremadu has to defend or justify this action is that this young man is above 21 years, I don't think that would exonerate him with due sense of respect. We have to look critically on the ingredients of this offense. The first ingredients have been satisfied. It was even satisfied before the young man traveled abroad. Now, at what point did this young man, did they inform him that his organ was to be transported or transplanted to another person? At what point? Was he at the point of procuring those travel documents or when he had already arrived in UK? So these are facts that will give you an insight of the intention of this procurement. And the law looks at intent. You have to look at the intent and the acts for it to form an offense. And this man was charged for conspiracy. Conspiracy has already taken place at the point of procuring this young man to travel. It would have been a different case if Ekweremadu knows this young man a lot of time before this incident happened, or is related or a friend to Ekweremadu's family. Now, have you asked yourself, why didn't Ekweremadu, any of his other siblings, or other family children, members, donate their own organ?
Because they'll most likely be a match.
Exactly. So the point is that it is like an animal farm where animals are more equal than others. If we allow this to go, it will create a very dangerous precedent, not just in Nigeria, but across the globe. We have to be careful not to, bring back, the Stone Age, where human beings are being sold into slavery. This one is modern slavery, where you have to sell them in parts and pieces. We have to ensure that the rich does not take undue influence on the poor, because that is where the exploitation comes in. If you are saying you pay this young man for him to donate, that means you can buy people for you to harvest their organs.
Okay. Unfortunately, there is nothing to add to what my referee said. I think he has captured it. Most people who are convinced of this issue do not seem to understand the exact nature of the charge that Ekweremadu is fixing. If you look at it globally, there
seems to be a lot of sentiment about it. Of course, even the senators have.
If you look at it globally, there are two fundamentals. There are two things that the law is against. First, exploitation, and the issue of informed consent, which must be present. But another thing, most importantly, is commercialization. of organ donation is a crime anywhere in the world. Do you know the funny thing? Even in Nigeria, it's a crime under the National Health Act, you know, of 2014. Yeah, so you know, you can't commercialize it. You cannot pay for it. You understand? Which is why, like he said, this is something ordinary that should be from a family member or somebody who, you know, because for somebody who is poor like the young man, obviously is, and you want to take him abroad and all that, that's enough sentiment, that's enough inducement, that's enough incentives on the basis of which, you know, the charge that they are filing against him can be sustained. People who are talking about age, I don't think age is relevant here at all. You know, yes, you know, the laws are against using minors. In fact, minors are not even under, they can't even donate in any circumstance, even if he's a family member. If you are under the age of 18, like under the Nigerian law, you cannot, you know, be involved in organ donation. But beyond that, even if you are my age, even if you are a Methuselah, you know, you cannot be paid for that purpose. Exactly. You know, except, in fact, our Nigerian law says that except, for example, costs which are reasonably incidental to, for example, transporting to the hospital and stuff like that. Because if you allow people to pay,
probably that's what they followed, transporting the guy from Nigeria.
Because if you allow people to pay others to get organs, you know what is going to happen. We're already experiencing that problem in this country. In fact, we have seen instances where young people will just travel. They say they're going to Malaysia. They come back after a few weeks and they are spending money. Some people believe that they have gone to donate their organs. There's a black market for it, right? So it's, you know, and the laws are, you know, globally against it, and we don't want to see where you not formalize it, where, you know, you have, if I have billions in my account, for example, when I'm 70, I can decide to change my organs and buy some people off all the streets. That is wrong. So a lot of people are saying, well, oh, any father could do that. A father should only do something within the confines of the law. If you go outside the confines of the law, I have sympathies with them with respect to their child is sick and all that. That's fine. But what about the child you want to procure? What about the child you have induced? You know, the homeless, in quotes, child who has nobody that you want to use. You know, organ donation is solely something you can do. In the UK, for example, you can do it. It's deemed that once you are dead, you have agreed that your organs should be donated, unless, of course, you have given a notice that you don't want your organs to be donated after death. Okay. But when you are alive, you can only donate organs on the basis of some affinity, not on the basis of commercialization. Exactly. It's not a cash and carry kind of situation. You know, if you are taking me abroad, maybe I want to, because a child on the street of Lagos who has been promised going to the UK and all that, that's enough inducement. So the charges against them is really serious. It's really serious.
It is serious, and of course the senator sent a delegation kind of
which is very, very disappointing.
See,
is that what we should be spending our national resources on? ASU has been on strike for months.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with solidarity.
No. Except there is a diplomatic intervention.
What would your president do there? If you want the diplomatic intervention, you don't need to go there. You go through the federal